Hello again, it's Lock Noob, and this, well, let's face it, it's a pretty handsome looking lock, is the very nice Ultion. But it's not just a normal Ultion, this is the new version of the Ultion. I have the old version here, there we go, and you'll see that there is a colour difference with the cam. There are some modifications that they've done with the new Ultion, some of which we'll explore together if I can pick it and gut it. But they have a double shutdown mechanism here where you have these bolts that shoot up to block the cam if it detects snapping. So yeah, like I said, a very nice looking lock to say the least. You'll also notice that it says things like £1,000 guarantee, and just like the old version of the keyring, says if a burglar snaps and the Ultion and the burglar breaks in, then there is a £1,000 guarantee on the lock, which is kind of cool. Just in terms of the lock itself, you'll probably be able to see I've removed a circlip from here, and I've also removed the retaining pins here, so that I should be able to gut this lock just by removing a couple of grub screws in here, removing this little metal retainer. Well, at least that's the theory. I've not actually gutted it to be able to find out, but we'll find out together hopefully in a minute. I will actually, just in case I pull the core out by accident, I'll go in this side with the key. And yeah, it can you hear that? It's a little clicky. It doesn't feel as smooth as the old Ultion. I'm not sure why that is, but it's got a definite click, and it does do that on the other side as well. If you notice, it's got an interior and an exterior side. Often in locks you find that the interior side these days has much fewer security pins, so we're going to go for the external side for the pick and see what is inside. Assuming I can figure out how to gut this. Alright, well, we'll figure it out together. Okay, see you all in a second. So, we are in the vise, and this lock was actually given to me by GJ Locks, the excellent lock tool designer and maker, so thank you GJ for this. And you see the bitting here is pretty extreme actually. Got pins 1 to 3 very high set, then low pin 4, very high pin 5, and low pin 6. Quite the extreme lock in some respects. Let's put the key in. Felt very sort of stiff, but yeah, it's workable. It's a bit gritty on this side as well. There we go. Tension on this is actually interesting because you can tension it using an L wrench like this and just stick it down the middle of the lock. It works really well. I've taken out the retaining pins at the bottom and the circlip, so I have to support the lock as I pick it. So let's see how it gets on. Medium tension, pin 2, pin 3, just wiggle past pin 4. Tiny little click there. Pin 5, okay, good. 1, 2 now. See that core movement, little core movement there? So 1, 2, 3. Try to avoid 4, 5, 6, okay. Just release some of that tension. That's just touch pin 6 there. Pin 1's now binding heavily. And sometimes this actually means that it's open, but it's a bit sort of gritty, so I think this might actually be open. Just need to sort of wiggle the tension a bit. If not, might just be hung up on a little pin somewhere. there we go, it is open. It's just caught up. So that wasn't a very long pick at all. There's something catching inside here. I don't know what it is. So yeah, that is interesting. Okay, so that was a complicated gutting. It really was. Yeah, that was yeah, surprisingly complicated actually. And I think that this little disc of metal just acts as a plug at the bottom of the lock somewhere. So I don't think that's anything. Just put it over here. You can see in the plug itself, you have some steps in here, and those are well, you've got two cuts really. You've got the bottom cut, which means that these key pins don't fall all the way into the keyway because it's got a very wide open keyway, so they're stepped because of that. We've also got another little step, can you just see here, which I think acts as some form of undercutting on the keyway as well, which is quite interesting. So the pins in here are, well, all the key pins are standard, so they're all standard. Got some anti-drill steel pins in there, and the top's interesting because you've got some very gritty feeling little threaded or pins. I think they look like they're threaded. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's like a threaded pin. Then we've got like a stepped little barrel pin here, which are usually quite good as an anti-bump feature. Then you've got spools in there, like I said, anti-drill standard pins, more anti-bump pins, and more of these, I want to call them serrated, but I think they're like threaded pins. Let's have a look in a bit more detail. They're not threaded, they are just a very tight serrated pin, which is quite an interesting feature. Oh, let's drop the plug. Interestingly, if we look at this, so you can see that you have some really good anti-drill features in this lock. You see the cut line where it's anti-snap as well. Just look at how big this piece of metal is, which fits on the underside here. So that would go in here and provide a bit of anti-drill protection on the underside of the lock as well, between the two cut sections there, and then two at the top. Really interesting stuff there, I have to say. You know, pretty good as far as anti-drill and anti-snap is concerned, for sure. Anti-pick, yeah, not so much actually. I think once you get your tension down, and it isn't that hard. Let me just show you. If I get this in focus for you and get that tension tool, you'll see how I tension it, just like that. There you go. that's exactly how it's done. So yeah, that's going to be an absolute nightmare to put back together. But it is an interesting lock to explore, so I'm glad that I did actually take it apart. Do I think it's any harder to pick than the previous Ultion? Not so much, no. No, I mean, it feels gritty, I think, because of these very serrated little pins, but other than that, no, it's not a particularly hard pick. It's fun to explore though, and I hope you enjoyed exploring it with me. So I'll see you all next time.